What is going on, Pats Nation? It's Patriots Global here, back with another video. And in this one, I want to talk about the offseason at this point and really how I would like to see the New England Patriots tackle free agency with all of the cap space that they are projected to have. Now, if you don't know already, the New England Patriots are expected to be top 3 in available cap space for the 2021 offseason. How much exactly are they going to have? I hate to tell you, but right now we don't know, and we are not going to know until the end of the season. We're not going to know till the Super Bowl is done, till playoffs are concluded. So we do have to wait a little bit longer to figure out that exact number that the Patriots will have. And when we know that exact number, we can make better estimates on what the Patriots should do and what kind of money they could give out. And it's going to be really dependent on COVID. And what I mean by that is we knew this last offseason that this next offseason, the 2021 offseason, could be very different in the sense of we could be back about $35 million in cap space from what is originally projected due to COVID reasons. Now, that's not for sure. That's not 100% going to happen. If that does happen, it basically just means that the average amount for cap space for the entire NFL could be lowered. And basically what that means is that all teams available cap to spend for the 2021 offseason would also be lowered. So basically, let's say that the Patriots have $70 million in cap space, but there's going to be minus $25 million for each NFL team's cap space. That means the Patriots would only have about $45 million to spend in free agency. What I am hearing, though, is that the NFL is actually very positive that this will not happen. At least it's not going to be as large of a number as the NFL had originally expected, meaning that the Patriots could have a larger sum of money than expected, let's say, last offseason. With that being said, this team could have anywhere between $60, $70, $80, $90 million to spend in cap space. They're going to have a lot of money. They're ranked number 3 out of all 32 NFL teams. So it's going to be a fun offseason. I've heard that some people would rather the number be lower in cap space for the entire NFL so that the Patriots could get some guys on a smaller deal. And it goes both ways. Whether the Patriots have $70 million, $45 million, depending on how the NFL cap space kind of works out, this team will have a lot of money, and either way, they will be ranked 3rd in the amount of cap space. Now, what I really want to see the Patriots do is just full-on go out on offense. Now, that's not to say I want all of these moves to be offense, but I mean, the majority of these moves are going to have to be towards the offensive side of the ball. The defense for the Patriots still is ranked top 10. They're currently ranked 7th. They're still going to get guys back due to opt-outs and whatnot. The draft, still free agency, so I'm not too worried about the defense. There's obviously still some moves that they have to make, but I would say the number one thing for the Pats is going to be to re-sign players before going out and picking up all new guys. Offensively is where the Patriots really are going to start to struggle over the past few seasons. That's what we've seen with the Pats, which is really strange because with this franchise, that's not what we're used to. We're used to this offense winning this team football games, not losing this team football games. And this used to be a league where defenses were going to win you championships. Defenses were going to win you games. But college started to change. And because of that, the players coming out of college and heading into the NFL have started to change the league. And because of that, like I just said, the league is changing, and the Patriots really need to adapt to that. I know that Bill Belichick likes to play old-fashioned. Belichick is not a younger coach like some of these other guys, but he can't be stubborn. He has to change just like the NFL is doing. He has to stay on top of it if he wants to stay, as one of the best coaches in the league and all time, and if this team is going to continue to win football games. We've seen in college football that instead of defenses winning you games, it's offenses. And I think that's very testament to the NFL these days. I mean, you look at the Kansas City Chiefs. They have not had a tremendous defense. It's not a top defense in the league, but because they have the best overall offense, you have Pat Mahomes, you have Tyreek Hill, you have Travis Kelce, they are constantly going to be contenders, and they're constantly going to be talked about heading into the Super Bowl. I mean, that's how they got to the Super Bowl and won it this past season. And that's not me trying to say, well, the Patriots should just forget about the defense. Defense is still important, but instead of having a top-tier defense that's going to win you games, these days it's just going to be offense. And when you have somebody like Bill Belichick, who is a defensive mastermind, somebody who puts defense before anything else, he's going to kind of have to get over what he's comfortable and what he likes to do and kind of start changing with what the league's doing. And the first position that I would look at offensively is tight end. I know a lot of people want to go and head straight to the wide receiver position, but the problem with that is that I think the Patriots are better off wide receiver-wise currently than they are at tight end. And you can make the argument that, hey, maybe Devin Asiasi, maybe Dalton Keene will step it up, but I'm not okay with basing that off of maybe the Patriots need tight end help. They need production from tight ends. So I'm heading to free agency, and I think the best guy to look to is Hunter Henry. Now, I know Jared Cook, Rob Gronkowski, both guys that are on the open market in the free agency pool, but I think that the guy that Belichick would love to look at is Hunter Henry. I mean, Belichick has always loved Hunter Henry. Belichick has always wanted Hunter Henry on the New England Patriots. Even after the Chargers game of the past couple, or not a past couple weeks, but just a couple weeks ago, Belichick made sure to hunt him down, ran over to him, and talked to him a little bit. I mean, if that didn't scream, hey, Hunter Henry, I'm going after you in free agency, I don't know what will. Now, he did have that tag placed on him this past offseason. He's making about $10 million on 1 year. So when I'm looking at him, and I did my research on him, market value for him is a 4-year contract, $36 million, with an average salary of about $9 million. And I don't think that's terrible. I would give up $9 million for Hunter Henry. Look, I understand what people see. They're going to be like, $9 million, Hunter Henry, he's a good player, but is he top of the league? Is he worth $9 million? I think some people would rather go ahead and spend that money on someone like Jared Cook, and I do understand, but Jared Cook is going to cost more money, and all around Hunter Henry just does fit the bill much better for the Patriots, and he's still young. He has 5 years of experience in the NFL, so he is a veteran, knows what he's doing, but he is still just 26 years old. The Patriots have the money ultimately, and they're going to have to spend this money. If they want to get better, you have to pay a pretty penny now and then. And you know what? $9 million for a guy like Hunter Henry, who I think could truly help out the Patriots. I mean, why not? Why would you not make that move? So let's say that the Patriots have about $70 million, right? If you put on Hunter Henry for a 4-year contract worth $9 million, then you're still sitting at about $61 million. So you're still at a very good position, and you definitely upgrade at that tight end position. You have a true number one guy. So now I think the Patriots have to head over to wide receiver now. You addressed the tight end position. You got Hunter Henry. I think that they could potentially add another body in draft. You do still have your 2 third-round tight end draft picks. I just don't think they're ready to be number one guys. You have a proven guy, tight end, we're good. Moving on to wide receiver. So you got a really good wide receiver list, yeah. I mean, Sammy Watkins, Larry Fitzgerald, T.Y. Hilton, Allen Robinson, A.J. Green, Danny Amendola. Who I'm going to go with here is actually going to be T.Y. Hilton. And I know that a lot of people do not want to hear this, but just stay with me. I think T.Y. Hilton could be a good addition for the Patriots in this system, but with a quarterback also. Obviously, he hasn't been the same since Andrew Luck left. When Andrew Luck was here, he was a top receiver in the league. A lot of weird things going over there in Indianapolis. I think he has taken a bit of a hit in progression because of that. He's not going to cost an arm and a leg. I mean, obviously, if you're looking at, what he's making as an average in 2020, it's $13 million, but I would not give T.Y. Hilton $10+ million, and I think if any team is, it's a little bit of a mistake. Even with the troubles that he's had over the past few seasons since Andrew Luck has left, he's a top 15 receiver in the league. If you took Andrew Luck into account while Andrew Luck was here, he was easily a top 10 receiver in this league. Not just that, but he is a great guy on and off the field, and Belichick loves those kind of guys. I mean, Belichick doesn't want to just sign a guy to a contract who's just physically gifted and can help him on the field. He wants a guy who's great off the field, is going to do stuff for the community, and a guy who's going to really help inside the locker room, and I think T.Y. Hilton is a guy who can really help out with that aspect. I mean, I know he's a little bit up there in age at 31, but Belichick has never really cared about that. He has 604 yards right now on the season, and he has still proven that, one, he's a red zone threat with 4 touchdowns, but also that he can really, really get the chains moving with 13.1 yards per reception. So what I would do with this one is that I would give T.Y. Hilton a 2-year deal. That would be $8 million annually for those 2 years, ultimately bringing up $16 million on a 2-year deal. Now, he's a guy that could definitely get a better offer, but I just think when it comes down to it, the Patriots are a team that is going to give you your best chance of succeeding. They've turned careers around ultimately many, many, many times, and I think they'll have a quarterback situation, whether that's Cam Newton or whatnot, which we'll get into here shortly, in which maybe that could pry T.Y. Hilton in just a little bit. And you might think I'm done at the wide receiver position, but just when you think I'm done, I go ahead and I pull out another big name here. The Patriots go ahead and they sign wide receiver Corey Davis, and I think this really makes sure that they bolster in a number 1 guy. Some people can make the argument, T.Y. Hilton's old, he's coming off of a couple seasons where you're not too sure what you're going to get with him. You don't want that to be your number 1 guy, and I understand that. I got that covered for you guys because Corey Davis will come in, 25. He has 4 years of experience, brings in that veteran aspect, right? He's also young, has multiple years to develop, and he's beaten Belichick in the past. With the Titans, he has just destroyed New England, and we've seen in the past that Belichick keeps note of those guys. Belichick loves to bring in players that have destroyed him in the past, so Corey Davis is a guy that I think could definitely be on his list, but he's going to have a high market. So what I would give Corey Davis is a 4-year contract, $10 million a year, ultimately bringing that up to a $40 million deal. With that $10 million, though, that brings the Patriots currently to $43 million. And the Patriots still have a good amount of money to spend, and I think that you just made huge upgrades. You got help at the tight end position. You got your true number 1 guy. You go ahead and you bring a veteran aspect in T.Y. Hilton, a guy that is a low risk, pretty high reward if you can get the old T.Y. Hilton, and you bring in Corey Davis, a young guy who can help you, but still has experience and can be a true number 1 guy in case maybe things don't work out as you were hoping with T.Y. Hilton. But no matter what, you cannot make the argument that T.Y. Hilton will be equivalent or worse than guys like, Damiere Byrd, N'Keal Harry, Jacoby Myers. Now, obviously, none of this matters if the Patriots do not have a guy throwing the ball to this new tight end, new set of wide receivers. And the free agency market for quarterbacks really isn't much. I mean, the top 3 guys are Dak Prescott, Phillip Rivers, and Jacoby Brissett. I really don't think that Jacoby Brissett and Phillip Rivers really bring much of anything new to this New England Patriots team. I just don't think that they're really much of an upgrade from Cam Newton. And Dak Prescott, of course, the best on this list. He's a big upgrade, but he's a guy coming off a huge season-ending injury, and he's just going to demand so much money. I'm personally staying away from Dak Prescott. I'm bringing back Cam Newton. Give me Cam Newton in an actual offseason with the Patriots. Let's get Cam Newton an offense that is more based around him, in which he has an actual tight end to throw to, has actual wide receivers to throw to, and let's see how he does. Now, what I'm going to do here for Cam is I'm going to give him a 2-year deal, $8 million annually, which goes up to a 2-year, $16 million deal. And that number might be controversial to some people. It's pretty hard to kind of navigate what kind of deal Cam Newton could potentially get. Obviously, with the Patriots, he got the veteran minimum with the ability to get up to $7 million total dollars. And originally I had $5 million, but I bumped it up a little bit just because I think Cam Newton will get more offers, with an actual offseason. I think that a big reason people didn't sign him was because they already had their quarterbacks. They had questions about his injuries, and you know what? The injury has not been an issue for the Patriots or Cam Newton this year, so I think he'll have a higher market. But I think he will want to redeem himself. He likes playing in New England. He likes playing with Bill Belichick, and I think that 2-year, $8 million deal is good on both ends. I really wish that there was another guy that I could really bring in here, have a possible competition here with Cam Newton, but I mean, there's not much to say about it. You know, Andy Dalton is not a guy that personally I would bring in. Robert Griffin, not a guy I would bring in. Nathan Peterman, no thanks. Nate Sudfeld, no thanks. Joe Flacco, Ryan Griffin, no thank you. But you know what? I think bringing in maybe a little bit of competition here on Jarrett Stidham, a little bit of competition here on Cam Newton isn't going to kill anyone. Will they draft a quarterback? I just don't know. But I like A.J. McCarron. You know what? He's going to be an unrestricted free agent. A few years ago, we were talking about him being a starting quarterback, and then it just kind of dissipated. You know, where did he go? What is he doing? He wasn't ever really given a fair chance to be a starting quarterback, and with an offense like the Patriots, a good offensive line, updated weapons, good backfield, I'd be curious to see how someone like A.J. McCarron could do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in A.J. McCarron, and I'm going to give him just a one-year deal, a prove-it deal, worth a total of $3 million. His previous contract, which he was making in 2020, was worth just $4 million. Make the contract in an aspect of, you know what, if it doesn't work out, you can cut ties and it's not going to kill the Patriots in a dead cap, but someone who can come in and just battle for that position. I think that he's going to be a guy who's going to be able to battle it out much harder, I think, than Jarrett Stidham can, but it's going to put that pressure a lot more on Jarrett Stidham to perform better also. The Patriots, I'm sure, roll with 3 quarterbacks, but I just don't see that guy being Brian Hoyer. I'm definitely not a guy who is opposed to the Patriots bringing in multiple quarterbacks and just battling it out in training camp and just whatnot, the offseason programs, to see who's their best option. So right now we have Hunter Henry, who we signed. We signed T.Y. Hilton. We signed Corey Davis, Cam Newton, A.J. McCarron, and we are sitting currently, after all of these moves, at about $32 million to continue to spend. Again, it's still a good amount of money. Now, obviously, the Patriots' backfield is going to take a little bit of a hit. They're still going to be a run-heavy team. You do have Damian Harris still back there, but Rex Burkhead, James White, they are both free agents. You got to make some moves, and I definitely think the Patriots will look towards the draft to add someone running back-wise. But personally, I'm going to bring back James White. You know what? He is the heart and soul of the Patriots offense. He's had such a down year, but he's gone through so much. This offense in general has just been weird. The play calling has been weird. Let's give it an offseason. Let's work with Cam Newton and James White because I still feel like that is a match made in heaven. James White is literally the Patriots version of a Christian McCaffrey. Let's get this involved somehow, right? So James White is going to be getting a 4-year, $6 million deal annually, coming out to about $24 million total, and that's going to leave the Patriots at about $26 million left. James is clutch. I mean, I don't think you can argue that. Whether it's running the ball, whether it's screen passes, which he seems to always be just dominant in, his ball carrier vision is one of the best in the league, and he's also literally a receiver within the running back role. I mean, seriously, James White has better hands than some of the wide receivers out there in the league that have a starting role. I know things were definitely down for him this season, but I think that he's a must-bring back for the New England Patriots because of how versatile he is, because of what he brings, not on the field, but also off the field in the locker room. He is a leader to this team. I'm bringing James White back, period. Now, I do think that the Patriots should add another body here at the running back position to kind of help replace somebody like Rex Burkhead, who I had a hard time not bringing back, but will they bring back the exact same core as they had before? Maybe, maybe not, but I'm going to bring in a very powerful running back, a guy who's going to really be able to help the Patriots in those short-yarded positions, but also help them within the red zone, and that's going to be former Los Angeles Ram in Malcolm Brown. Brown is not a number one guy, but the Patriots don't need a number one guy. He's going to be a nice situational piece again that the Patriots can use in those short yardage positions in the red zone. He has currently 389 yards on the season. 368 yards. He also has 5 touchdowns and 150 receiving yards. So he's able to get the job done, not just on the ground, but also in the air. And he's just a hard guy ultimately to bring down. And I don't think it is going to cost the Patriots much here. I'm actually just going to give Malcolm Brown a 2-year deal, $3 million annually, coming up to $6 million. And the Patriots still have $23 million left to spend. And the last piece here offensively is going to be the offensive line, and that's center David Andrews. David Andrews is a must bring back. I mean, He really is the definition of a leader. We've seen what it's like when he's not on the field. In fact, we've seen it a little bit this season, but we saw it all year last year in 2019, and it hurt the Patriots, and it hurt the Patriots big. So I really want to see the Patriots bring him back. I think that it's really going to be a priority, actually, for Bill Belichick to bring him back. And I think because he's one of the better centers in the league, he's going to get a pretty nice market. I'm going to give him a 4-year deal in which he's going to make $7 million annually. That is going to come down to about $28 million for those 4 years, and the Patriots are left with $16 million as we head on to defense. So now we're going to move on to defense here. And the first move I'm going to make is I'm going to grab Jadeveon Clowney. Now, Clowney is a guy that has had a pretty down year. He has really not done much for the Tennessee Titans. I mean, he hasn't put up any sacks. I mean, what do you got to say about that? I mean, Jadeveon Clowney is not going to get this big deal. He waited out because he thought that he was, and he's not. And because of that, he's going to have to rebuild his market. This market is not going to be anything huge. He's not going to make upwards of $8 to $10+ million. This year, he only has 19 tackles, 14 solo tackles, 5 assist tackles, and his best play is 1 forced fumble. I do think, though, if anybody's going to turn this around, it's going to be Bill Belichick. Jadeveon Clowney is still a really good player. We saw that while he was with the Texans. We still saw that while he was with the Seahawks. And then when he was with the Titans, it just did not show up. Luckily enough, though, for any other NFL team, because of how he's performing this year, he's not going to get this big market. So I'm going to give him a 2-year deal just because, hey, if for some reason he doesn't pan out, it's only a 2-year deal. And that's going to be $6 million, $12 million total. And that's going to bring the Patriots down to $10 million. Jadeveon Clowney, what he's able to bring, whether it's defensive end, he plays outside linebacker, it's going to help the Patriots. It's going to help apply pressure, but also serves some depth, 1 on the defensive line, 2 at linebacker, which the Patriots really need help at, 2 of the most important positions of need defensively, and for only $6 million a year, you really can't complain for the production you could potentially get. And then next off here, I'm going to address the defensive tackle position. I think that's going to be just vital for this team to do is address the defensive tackle position. They do still have some nice pieces. I really think that they'll draft a defensive tackle in this year's draft. I think they have to. You have to draft a defensive tackle high, and I think that's going to be super beneficial if they do. You have Lawrence Guy leaving. Adam Butler also a free agent, but I'm going to sign Shelby Harris, former Denver Bronco. I think that he would be a really, really good piece to replace a guy like Lawrence Guy, who I think is just going to get overpaid in free agency potentially. But I'm going to give him a 4-year deal, $6 million a year, 24 overall, and that leaves the Patriots with $4 million left over. Shelby Harris could be a really great addition to the Patriots. I mean, he appeared in just 9 games this season. He had 26 tackles, 3 sacks, 9 quarterback hits, and 1 forced fumble. He's a playmaker. He's a guy, a big body in the middle that can help plug the middle and stop the run, but also applies that pressure. He's the all-around defensive tackle that I think the Patriots could really use. To put some things into perspective, Lawrence Guy so far this year, or not so far, just in general this year, he only is making a base salary of $3.8 million, and this year, Shelby Harris is making a base salary of $2.5. So I think $6 million a year in that range isn't far-fetched at all. And then that's going to conclude today's video. The Patriots do have $4 million left over, but Belichick loves to keep that money rolling into the following season in case he wants to make any last-minute moves. So I'm not going to make any other moves with that. Of course, they do still have to sign their draft guys, which I didn't put into perspective till just now. This is going to be 1.0. If you guys leave a big like on this video, you tell me your thoughts in the comment section below, and this is just a video that you guys ultimately like and performs well, then I will make a 2.0, maybe a 3.0 this offseason. Again, right now it's super hard just not knowing the exact number that the Patriots have to work with. It's kind of just running around with perspective, guys. Right now it's kind of just wishful thinking, more of a fun video, but when we get numbers, we talk about what each team is going to get. We talk about how the rest of these guys' free agency is performing and what potentially numbers they could be looking at. Then we can get a more accurate prediction on where guys will go, what kind of money they could look at, and ultimately how much money the Pats have to spend. There's definitely some moves that I would like to make. It just didn't necessarily work out that way. So if I do make another video, there's definitely going to be a few more changes. But I do like this list. I mean, if the Patriots can all around just get some help on offense, I think it helps tremendously. I mean, in this list, them grabbing Henry, T.Y. Hilton, Corey Davis, Cam Newton, A.J. McCarron, James White, Malcolm Brown, David Andrews, that is a huge, an entire upgrade over from what we've seen the past several years from the New England Patriots. Defensively, again, they still have it. They just have a lot of rookies. They'll have a lot of more rookies coming this year that I think they'll add defensively. So I'm not too worried there, which is why I didn't add too much defensively. But cornerback-wise, might be a guy that I add free agency-wise. It's going to be it for this one, though. What are your guys' thoughts on this video? Thoughts on how I ended up making this, who I would sign? Let me know in the comment section below. Remember to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for all of your New England Patriots news. Like always, though, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.
In Astro World.